What we're looking at right now is the settings page for a sample test that I've created in one of my courses, just to talk about some of the options that are available to you if you administer a test through MyLabsPlus without using a proctor. The first thing you would want to do is, of course, limit your number of attempts, for instance, to 1 if this is a test that you don't want students to be able to repeat. When we look at incomplete attempt, we've got a few different options. The default is that students are expected to complete this test in one session. If that attempt is interrupted, students may re-access and complete on their own. What this would do is allow a student to close out of a test and open it back up if you didn't want them to complete it in one setting, or if they experienced a technical glitch, then they could close out of MLP, reopen it back up, log back into the test and finish it without contacting you. You have some other options. For instance, you could change this to say, if the attempt is interrupted, instructors must enable access. This is the option that we use in O9X. The first option, sub-option here, is restricted access, where students cannot resume an incomplete attempt until after the instructor enables access to it. This means if a student closes a test or there is a technical glitch, they get kicked out, something happens, they would have to contact you, and you as the instructor would have to enable access before they can continue taking that test. The alternative sub-option is to select blocked access. If you were to select this, that would mean that if a student gets kicked out of a test, or if they close a test, they would be blocked from completing any assignments in your course. So that would essentially shut them out of the entire course. They wouldn't be able to complete homework assignments, practice assignments, anything else until you enable access again. There's also this, students have the save for later option. I've used that before and you're certainly welcome to, but I feel like I ran into some problems with that, where students can't skip around through a test. They have to answer those questions in a specific order. So I would recommend students are expected to complete the test in one session. If an attempt is interrupted, that you must enable access, and you would just want to choose between restricted or blocked access for even a little bit more prevention or a little bit more encouragement for students to contact you. You can, of course, set a time limit. You can show students the time remaining. You can scramble the question order for each student, which helps to give every single student a different experience with the test, especially if you're using pooled questions. But it means two people sitting next to each other wouldn't be taking the same test in the same order. You have the option to turn on different learning aids. What I generally do is turn all of those on, but then select for those to be shown in review mode only, which would mean students wouldn't have access to those while they're taking the test. Another step that you can take is under this review options. Basically, this is always set to test summary, shows test score, and question results, meaning that by default, after a student completes a test, they can review it in its entirety. They can see which questions they missed, which questions they got wrong, which questions they got right, maybe the alternate there. You can change this to show only the test score, so when a student completes a test, they would see their score, or you can completely hide the score and question results. If you select either of these first two options, you'll have a second statement here, which allows you to restrict when students can review a test, only after they submit, only after the due date, or a student can never review a submitted test. One option to consider would actually be selecting hide score and question results. If you're having a student take an unproctored test and you're going to have them write out work on their own paper and then somehow digitally return that to you, either by scanning or taking pictures and emailing it to you, hiding score and question results would just mean that once they complete the test, they wouldn't know how good or bad they did. So it would help to negate the likelihood of them maybe changing some of their work to make it reflect what the correct answer should have been if they were able to review the test. If you select that option, then the student can never review the submitted test. However, once you've collected all of the scratch work, once you know everyone is completed with the test, you could come back in and change that and open it up so students can review their test. But again, this is just one option for adding a little bit more security if you're giving an unproctored test. The remaining options here are available for you to turn on or off. But again, this is just an option if you are using an unproctored format for your test to encourage a little more honesty on your students' part.